Well, hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are at the moment. This is episode 5 of the Legal Lunch Byte, presented by Harris Sliwoski. And today, I'm delighted to have Fernando Rivadeneyra join me on this live stream. So, Fernando, welcome.
Thank you, Fred. Thanks for inviting me to this launch bite.
My pleasure and our pleasure, all of us here. Fernando, first, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. My name is Fernando Rivadeneyra. I'm a lawyer, a Mexican lawyer. I have developed the past 36 years a law firm here in Mexico. We have over 60 lawyers, and we have offices in the Mexico City, the city of Puebla, and the city of Querétaro. And I have dedicated my life mainly to clients that are coming to Mexico to do business in Mexico, to sell their companies, their plants, etc. Mainly, I have been working with U.S. clients and clients from Europe, and in Europe, especially from Spain and Germany.
Very, very interesting. And I definitely want to talk a little bit more about your firm. But before we do that, your work focuses on working with international companies that are operating in Mexico. That's at least part of your focus. So, what is the environment like in Mexico at the moment? Um, especially looking at specifically looking at it from the point of view of foreign companies that might want to do business in Mexico. What are things like there at the moment?
Sure, thank you, Fred. I have to say that I have been tracking what's going on in Mexico since NAFTA was first signed 30 years ago. And I have seen so many changes in Mexico that you would be surprised how we have developed in 30 years. I have to say that Mexico has been integrated with the US and Canada in the North America region, and that Mexico is not Mexico anymore. Of course, it's Mexico, but it's now North America, and we are more fully integrated. So, what we see from here is that, of course, we still have some problems with, the cartel, some violence, but it's not all Mexico is like that. I have never seen or deal any of those problems that do exist in Mexico. But what I have seen is, especially some regions that have been growing around the investment coming from the US, from Canada, from Europe. And I have seen more and more and more clients coming down. But not only that, I have seen also a lot of individuals moving to Mexico and staying in Mexico because they like to live here. Now, recently, probably the past 5 years, we have seen more and more companies moving from Asia to Mexico, especially, and some other companies not moving, but because they want to work around those companies that are moving from Asia to Mexico, they also come to our place to work. What I have also seen, Fred, and this is important to say, it, is how Mexico has been transforming the legal framework, kind of like labor, taxes, etc., in a different way. I have seen also, Fred, that we still have some problems with corruption, but not at the higher level. We have been seeing changes on that too.
Interesting, interesting. Thank you for that overview. And I understand that elections are coming soon in Mexico.
Yes,
What is the? Tell us a little bit about that, just for folks who maybe do not follow Mexican politics that closely. What is the choice that is going
y-
to be put in front of Mexican voters?
yes. First, I have to say that in Mexico, the presidents have 6 year term, and they cannot be reelected. So our actual president, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, is ending his term this year, and we will have elections in June, in the month of June. It looks like we will have the first female president in our country. And then we have two, I would say, very bright women that are running against each other. There is a third candidate from a minor political party that I don't think he has any chance. But I think we will see a large competition between Claudia Sheinbaum, who is a very bright woman. She's a scientific. She worked with Al Gore when he got his Nobel Prize. She's been running the Mexico City as the mayor of Mexico City, of the governor of Mexico City, and she's an engineer with a doctor in Berkeley University. And then in the other side, have Xochitl Galvez, which is also a very smart woman. I mean, she's been in the politics for many years. So it looks like we're going to have for the first time a female president in Mexico, and I think that would be good for the country.
It's interesting you mentioned that, right? Because sometimes here in the United States, we tend to have, I think, our perspectives are sometimes a bit limited, right? And the fact remains that it's at this it's 2024. There has not been a female president. We do have a female vice president, and who knows what we'll see in the next few years. But this is remarkable and also worth paying attention to, the fact that Mexico will join this group of countries that have that has a woman in charge, joining, of course, many other countries that have already done that, right? So I think it's something worth keeping in mind, right? I mean, I think sometimes here in the United States we might overestimate just how avant-garde and progressive we are. So Fernando, I want to ask you one more question about what's happening in Mexico in the context of especially in the context of nearshoring, all these companies coming, in many cases from China, other Asian countries. They want to be closer to their main markets. To the extent that you can, I mean, how would you compare the experience for a foreign company or a foreign business person, if you compare working in Asia to working in Mexico? What are some of the let's just say, what might be better in Mexico, what might not be better in Mexico?
Well, what might be better in Mexico is that we are next to the US and Canada. I think that's the first reason. Then I don't know how you could compare the labor cost, but I think that the labor cost in Mexico, even though the past years minimum salaries has been raising here, the economy has been raising, so it's not as cheap as it used to be. We still have some advantages compared to China, for example. Also, I would have to say that the environment here is, I mean, you have to comply with the law. Many years ago, companies will come here because they thought they would not have to complain with environmental or labor, etc. That's not true anymore. So, from the perspective of having a place where both you are protected by law, but also the laws have been standardized up to the same as US and Canada, then Mexico would be a place to consider. Especially, I would say, in the north states of Mexico, we are seeing a lot of companies establishing there. Then we have the middle, Querétaro, Puebla, Mexico City, and the actual government is doing an effort to develop the south of Mexico, including uh, a train that goes from coast to coast and that will compete with the Panama Channel. So, in that sense, I think we are also seeing the framework that will make Mexico a very competitive country and North America to be very competitive with the rest of the world. We have also, Fred, have seen the past, I would say, 3, 4 years, more integration between the government of Mexico, Canada, and the US than never before. We have seen all the time the three governments working and working and working, not only in the problems that we have to solve, migration, drug trafficking, etc., but also in how to establish the framework to have a very competitive region. And probably because I'm here, I can see that happen. Of course, we have many challenges yet to go, but I see that we are moving well in the right direction.
Excellent. It's good to hear that. We could keep talking about Mexico, but I do want to make sure we talk about some, let's say, more personal aspects or topics. So our two firms are entering a new phase of cooperation. We've been working together for quite some time now. I personally have become familiar with many of the attorneys at your firm, and in fact, I have interactions with them. I would say a comparable number of interactions to those that I have with some of my own colleagues here at Harris Sliwoski, and it's an experience that I've enjoyed greatly. But things are now entering a new era. So could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, Fred, thanks for mentioning that. I think it's important for both of our firms because we just executed like an association agreement or something like that. This is informal, if in that, I mean, if you can put it that way, in which we will start exchanging more and more our knowledge of our different uh, areas or country or whatever. We're going to be exchanging a little bit more and participating a little bit more, working together in different conferences, scenarios, social media, etc. So we can be a much better fit for clients that like to do business in North America, because as you know, we're also inviting some Canadian firms to join us in this effort in having like really good practice that will go in all North America. And I think as you, Fred, we are seeing more and more having more integration with lawyers from your firm, having more contact with clients from both sides. And I think it's going to be good, not only for our firms, but especially for clients, right?
I agree. I concur. So before we sign off there, I want to share some information about some upcoming events featuring, in one case, Fernando, and in the other case, featuring both of us. So on the 8th of May, Fernando will be part of a panel looking at issues related to the USMCA, the renewed version of NAFTA, the free trade agreement between Canada, Mexico, and the United States. So obviously something quite related to what Fernando was talking about today. So that panel will take place as part of the spring event for the Washington State Bar Association International Practice section, of which our firm is a proud sponsor. And pretty soon, I think we're, let's see, 2 weeks away, 2 weeks from today, I will be moderating a panel that of which in which Fernando will take place at the iLaw conference organized by the Florida Bar International Practice section. And this panel is going to be looking at all of the chaos and commotion in the world today, everything that's happening as far as the relationship between China and the United States and the West and Russia and increasing social activism. It's going to be a very wide-ranging discussion with a focus on how us as lawyers can help our clients navigate these waters, especially the legal aspects of them. So I'm looking forward to that. We have to sign off pretty soon, Fernando, but is there anything you want to say about the conference before we sign off?
I think that those two would be very good conferences, Fred. And I will have to say something very quickly. That is that we're living an historical moment,
We are.
which is the integration of North America. And what we are seeing, what's happening in the world, I think it will make speed up the integration of our region. And we are happy to speak on that. We can see it already happen. And I think those two events will be wonderful.
Fantastic. Well, Fernando, see you in Miami in 2 weeks. And thanks everyone for joining us today. See you next week.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Fred.